I'm Heidi Rico. I'm going to go through some of my intro in a bit. But this afternoon, I want to share with you US Foods' journey from tabular to visual, leveraging Tableau. So my title, One Dashboard to Rule Them All, it's actually a nod to Lord of the Rings. I'm a big fan. And I thought that I'm going to be the only one with a reference to that. But I saw in the schedule there's another one, and it's Data and Back Again. Hello, Hobbit. So I'm not the only one with a reference to Lord of the Rings. But anyway, so let's just talk about me for a bit, just so you know who I am. I came from the Philippines. I took my Bachelor's of Statistics from the University of the Philippines. And then I started working for the Social Security system. I thought, I want to be an actuarial science professional, because my dream was really to be in a courtroom. And I thought, I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't think I can be a lawyer, but I can be an expert witness. So I said, okay, I'm going to start my journey in actuarial science. That did not really work out. I figured I'm not having as much fun. Good thing is I got a call from San Miguel Beer. So it's one of the biggest food and beverage companies in the Philippines. And my role there was pretty much sales information. It's all about beer. And that's where I also started forecasting, so my first venture into forecasting, and also marketing research. So I started using what I learned in my undergrad, all working about data and understanding the business. So I was there for about 5 years. And one of my professors from undergrad said, you should pursue your master's, come here to the States, because at that point he was already here in the US. So I did. I followed instructions. I went to Bowling Green State and pursued my master's, still in applied statistics. I guess I can never really move away from data. And then after that, I got this great opportunity to work for Javi Global Solutions, and we worked with McDonald's supply chain. So I dealt with Happy Meal forecasting, Monopoly forecasting, and eventually food forecasting. So now you see that there is a theme. It's all about food for me, okay? Food and drinks. So I was there for over 11 years and working on the demand forecasting and supply planning process. And again, still working with data, right? Now, staying consistent with the theme, it's not a surprise that my next job is with US Foods. So more about food, and I've been there for 6.5 years. I started as a senior category analyst for grocery and dairy. And I really had a great time supporting the dairy part, because who doesn't love ice cream? And so that was part of, the bribe for me, supporting that category. And now I lead commercial business analytics and forecasting. So with commercial business analytics, think about it as it's really all of US Foods, less supply chain. Because we have another team that supports supply chain. And my boss said, so I report to Chuck Sample, who's our VP for Insights and Analytics. He told me that, well, you figure out what your title is, because we can't call you USF minus supply chain. So I figured, okay, maybe commercial business analytics is what's going to work out. So I've got teams supporting merchandising analytics, marketing analytics, sales analytics, and on the forecasting side, I support financial forecasting, sales forecasting, promotional forecasting, labor forecasting. And I think one of the other things that they've been asking me to do is also integrating with our supply chain. So starting up a forecasting center of excellence for US Foods. So US Foods is a $26 billion company. And we've been in the business for over 100 years. My parents actually, it's funny, side note, when they found out that I was working for US Foods, they were like, wow, US Foods? US like United States? Yeah, no. So US Foods actually started from Unifax Swan back in 1853. We've got about 250,000 customers and hundreds of thousands of products. And really our goal is to help our customers make it, okay? And US Foods came to be over time with a lot of mergers, acquisitions. So you can just imagine the number of data sources that we have and the legacy systems that we still maintain today. So this really, supported all this disparate sources of information. It was a challenging reporting landscape, okay? So this afternoon, what I'm going to share with you is really, what's the case for change? Why am I here in front of you? How we stood up our BI governance center of excellence. Our first charge was rationalizing our metrics and reports, and how we've leveraged Tableau in this whole concept of a master dashboard. And where do we go from there, right? What does the future hold for us? So I'm going to take you back in history, and this is going to be from my side of the story. Back in 2012, so I was a few months in as an analyst, and there's one big report that I've been hearing my team, the other team members describe. They say it's MM8. And I'm like, what's MM8? And it seems to be a big deal. Well, turns out it's Monday morning at 8. We're very creative with our naming convention. And apparently this report was done in Excel 2003. It's over 500 MB. Somebody comes in at 8 in the morning, they open the file, they walk away. After an hour, they come back. They're lucky if it's already open. Okay? So you can just imagine how difficult it is. So how we've supported that was I've got 2 team members coming in on a Sunday morning, and I've done that too. Sunday morning, we start at 7 o'clock. Okay? We pull the data and then manipulate that to death in Microsoft Access, and then afterwards, push it to Excel. Do all the VLOOKUPs, all the calculations, sum ifs, and all that. Does this feel familiar? So show of hands, how many have gone through or are still going through this type of experience? Oh, we all share the same pain. Thank you. So guess, how long does it take to get this done on a Sunday? Wild guess. How many hours? 4. Other numbers? Close. If we're lucky, 10 hours. If we're lucky. Because you can just imagine the process, right? You're passing it on from one system to the next with the hopes that all your calculations are going right. And things break. So if we're lucky, we've got that 10 hours later, Monday morning at 8, here's your report. We also have another process for a period review. So it's every month, we do this to support the merchandising organization for all their reports. Same thing, we pull the data, we start Monday afternoon. Same thing, manipulate in Microsoft Access. We've decided that having a 500 MB file is not the way to go. So we broke it apart, 11 reports. So not as big as 500 MB, but still huge, right? At this point, I had 6 people in my team, so I was already a category analytics manager, and all of us will be in one room. Have the output in Excel, get that ready for posting into SharePoint. Now, here's the guess. How long do you guys think this took us? We started Monday. Friday, 3 days. Yay, maybe 4 days later, at best, Thursday afternoon, we have it. And our stretch goal is like Friday morning, we should post it. This is the amount of time it took us to get things done, okay? And at that same time, 2012, got pulled in a meeting. I didn't know it was with our chief merchandising officer and chief finance officer. So remember, I was new to the organization, and I did not know that they were gonna be in that meeting. So can you just imagine how I was feeling at that time? Really freak out, right? Because you don't know what they're gonna be asking. So they brought up, our CMO said, I've got this metric, the value is X. CFO says, well, I've got the same metric, but it's Y. They're not the same. And so the question was, how can we have a report or reports that talk about the same metric and the numbers are not the same? So really what we want to strive for is consistency, accuracy, and completeness of the information. Completeness is a big point because the explanation for why those numbers are not the same is because of when the data was pulled, not all the components were in the system. So obviously, our CFO, if they pulled it Monday afternoon, we pulled it for CMO Monday morning, things are not going to be the same. So this was a huge pain point. And actually, this is a pivotal point in my career for US Foods, because this is when I got the mandate to make sure that everything is consistent. Okay? So 2013, we started what we called our BI strategy. So this is an IT-led initiative, and there were about 20 plus people in a room, some on the phone, and we will be talking about our pain points, all problems that we have, how do we move away from multiple reporting, proliferation, but we're not really solving any problems, so it wasn't working out well. And also, end of 2013, we hit a pause. And for some of you guys, you may have heard we were in a merger situation at that time. So 13 was somewhat quiet, 14, 15. When 2016 came in, got a firm mandate from our president and CEO. You need to establish BI governance for US Foods. So simple statement, not as easy to do, right? And it's very challenging, but you know what? This is what we're here for, right? We value the information, and I believe that we really need to establish that common language, because that's the only way that we can work easily together and get to the decisions faster. So what did we do? We created a center of excellence. We actually had Slalom help us out for 3 months to help us accelerate standing up this BI center of excellence. And key here is that this is a two-in-a-box approach. It's not just the business, it's not just IT, but I actually have an IT partner. Unfortunately, she can't be here today, she's sick. And we've been lockstep in the entire process. It's business and IT, and that's a key point. So what we did with Slalom for 3 months is, let's talk about the processes, but let's understand the landscape first. What do we really have in US Foods right now? What are the pain points? And then address what are the quick wins, right? And just a side note, this BI Governance Center of Excellence, it's composed of employees. So we're doing this over and above our usual jobs. And the individuals are really passionate about the information. So we've got work streams supporting production management. So as it relates to Tableau, no dashboard is considered official in US Foods unless it goes through certification through our production management work stream. We have our communication and training work stream. We've got the change management part. We've got data governance, data management. So these are all individuals cross-functional across US Foods that support the BI Governance Center of Excellence. So what we did was have a survey across the entire organization, representation both horizontally and vertically, on what are really the challenges that we have. Feedback that we got, easy, report proliferation, right? We were very siloed years ago, so merchandising did not really know what supply chain has or what finance has. So we realized that we've got multiple reports saying the same thing, maybe displayed differently, sliced and diced differently, but it's all the same, okay? And the process was, just like how I described for the MMA, it's a long one. So by the time that you're done with the report, the decision that you need to make is no longer relevant, right? So we're very, very slow. And we've realized across the organization, there's a lot of individuals with the skills, but they're not under the analytics organization. So we can't really just tell them what to do, right? So the opportunities there is that first, okay, we'll have to rationalize the reporting, okay? Really understand what do we need to provide information on, okay? And then obviously find a way to make it faster so that hopefully it's close to real time. A question gets asked because a decision needs to be made. Here is your answer, okay? And then I mentioned earlier, certified and productionalized reports and having really a rationalized landscape. The way that we thought about it, it's not just migrating your reports from Excel and then moving it to Tableau. So yes, you can layer on the visuals and all that, but it's really taking a step back and holistically thinking about what are the questions that we need to answer, what are the whys, and then redesign that information from Excel into Tableau. And what we've done is identify those individuals across the organization that are passionate about information, have the skill set and the desire to learn, and we've stood up our own user groups. So we've got our Tableau user group within US Foods, and it's a platform for everyone to share best practices. And we also have our own Tableau doctor sessions. So the COE, what we first needed to do was to rationalize the landscape, right? Understand all the data that we have, the platforms, all the metrics that we have, so that we can establish our common language. Okay? So 2016, just to give you a point of reference, that's when we stood up our BI COE towards the end of 16. Next step is to start the metric rationalization. This took a long time, because what we did was we leveraged our functional leaders across the organization so that we can understand what are all the metrics and dimensions that you use in your business to help you answer the questions that you need to answer. So a lot of interviews, a lot of documentation, and we actually had a lot of one-on-ones with our executive leadership team to understand like what metrics are important for you. And actually that's a very interesting exercise, because when they realize that, oh, I have a report that has this information, why do I have like 30 metrics? Good question. Why do you, right? So we went through that process. And also at that same time, we've started deploying Tableau. We did a proof of concept in 2015. We did training early 16. And then we got licenses that same year. So we've started identifying individuals. Primarily, these are individuals from our insights and analytics team when we started becoming enterprise-wide. So obviously, they're the lucky ones to get a Tableau license. And then other functions like finance, revenue management, we've started identifying individuals that we were going to be giving licenses to. So all throughout, up until to date, we've been deploying and reallocating those licenses. So one thing that we've done in our Center of Excellence is that somebody can send an email, right? Can I get a Tableau license? So first, what are you going to be using it for? So they need to establish a case before we give it to them. And then also they have to demonstrate that they're using it. Otherwise, we go through an exercise of, yeah, I'm going to take it away from you and reallocate, okay? Until such time that you've proven that you're worthy of a license. So we go through that process. And the good thing is, we've got a lot of relationships with our other partners, so they understand why we're doing it that way, to make sure that we're leveraging our assets the right way. And obviously, you can't really leverage the full power of Tableau if you don't have the right information to start with. I mentioned earlier that we've got a lot of data sources. Just in supply chain alone, I think 2 years ago, as of last count, we were like upwards of 30 different data sources, okay? So putting it all together is quite a challenge, right? So what we've done is started migrating all that, and our environment right now is Snowflake, okay? So it's our cloud data warehouse, and it's cloud-first thinking. If there's a data source that other functions are using, yeah, we'll have you use that, but we'll come up with a roadmap so that it gets brought into Snowflake. So it's also our source of truth, with Tableau running on top of it. So I mentioned earlier, metric rationalization was one of the biggest things that we did, right? As an outcome of the interviews, and since some of us, me, started learning how to use Tableau, what better way to show the output to our leadership than by having a word cloud? So this is actually a slide that I presented to our executive leadership team that showed them, here's all the metrics that the entire organization is using. This is coming from the different functions, and this is also coming from you. And they're like, oh, that's a lot. Yes. And that's the reason why we need to have a conversation and how we narrow it down. Because you can't really look at all of this, especially at the executive level, right? So you'll notice that, what's the biggest font size here? Cases. So we're a broadline distributor, so obviously cases is top of mind. But guess how many versions of cases we have? And how many definitions do we have for cases? It's quite a lot. Quantity shipped, quantity ordered, quantity on hand, quantity on order. So it goes on and on. So depending on what function you belong to, you refer to cases differently. So you come into a meeting and you all talk about cases without realizing that, oh wait, it's a different type of cases I'm explaining, right? So that's already one call out. And then one other big thing here, so near and dear to my heart, forecast error. Because there's so many different ways of defining forecast error too. And so showing this to them, it was an eye-opener. Like, how can we run our business, right? When we're looking at so many different metrics at the same time, you can't really process it that easily. And really, when you think about it, looking at metrics, a metric in isolation does not tell the story, right? You need to have relationships, co-locations, and truly understanding what that metric's all about. Because it could be a component, right? Or it could be a function of. So there's a lot of relationships that you need to call out so that it makes sense. And that's really where the idea of a master dashboard came to be. So the master dashboard, it's the one source of truth for our organization. So I'm just gonna let you know, we're nowhere close to done, okay? But we've taken the first step. And really, this is a journey. We have to start somewhere. And I think we've landed at a good place, because now, if you recall, the MM8 and the period review, it's all contained in the master dashboard. So you can just imagine we no longer come in on a Sunday, we no longer spend hours and hours putting together reports, and this master dashboard supports leadership, okay? So they look at, let's say, this one tab here, which is our key result. So as a public company, we have key results. I'm pretty sure all of you guys have your company key results too. They know exactly what's going on at any point in time. We've got our key indicators, so we've made sure that we've captured what's important for sales and merchandising, and also tabs supporting our supply chain partners, so both distribution and replenishment indicators. So this has been, I guess, really a huge change for us in the way that we do things and the conversations that we've been having. So part of it too, you'll notice that there's a consistent theme in the colors. We've started our own style guides. In our company, we have, branding. We need to make sure that there's consistency, and really you want to have that same look and feel across your dashboards, right? So we talked about the colors, how we're calling our metrics, visuals, so standard even for how we're displaying some of the visualizations that we have. One thing that we need to make an update to is to make sure that the red and green is addressed for those who have problems seeing those colors. And I know that there's a palette that can be applied, but we're sticking true to, right now, our company colors. But all the dashboards that are being built that's considered official has to follow the style guides. All our developers have a copy of this, and before it can be productionalized, we need to make sure that we've checked all the boxes and that they follow the style guides that we have. So we've done the metric rationalization. We've gotten the alignment on that master dashboard. It actually took quite some time. And because of the fact that even if we've narrowed down the metrics and we've showed them the mock-ups, they're still going to be saying like, well, I want to see metric X. Well, we said that we're not going to include that. No, but I think I want to see it. But you said you don't need that. So it's a lot of back and forth with our executive team. It took actually months to get that done. So we've had quite a few releases since then. 3 releases, last of which was middle of the year. And at this point, every single release, we ask our leadership team to do a UAT. So isn't that funny that we ask our executive, do a user testing, right? And then, have you looked at the dashboard? Have you seen it? What's your feedback? Not everybody in the team actually has the time to do so. So they've got some of their team members reach out to us and provide feedback. And actually just a week ago, after obviously all the slides have been completed, they've asked for additional metrics. So the master dashboard as it stands now, it's not gonna be the same thing next week when I get back. And we're still gonna have the same conversations on, you said we're not supposed to include that. We're bringing it back again. And that's okay, because business changes. And one thing that we've communicated is that the dashboard is never done, right? Business rules change, decisions that we need to make change, and we need to make sure that we're flexible enough. And I think that's where the beauty of Tableau is, right? We've got the data. If there are any changes that they need to make, then we can implement that easily. So what's next? It's a functional dashboard build out. Because the master dashboard, you've seen the tabs, it doesn't end there. It's a starting point. So think about it, this functional dashboard build out as the network of information for all of US Foods. So what does that look like? I mentioned earlier that our metrics, or all our information is gonna be in Snowflake. That ensures that we've got one source of truth for the entire organization. And obviously your IT partners are ensuring that only the information that's in our gold, which is really the standard, is leveraged in all our Tableau dashboards, okay? And we've got, the main landing pages supporting our leadership asks. And then the way that we've designed this master dashboard, so our president and CEO actually said, when he saw this slide, oh, Heidi, you've got an org chart. Well, I'm not that creative, so this is the best way that I can explain how we're trying to build out the vision for the dashboard. And it really is an org chart when you think about it, right? We've got dashboards supporting each of our functional units. And all of these dashboards now are in various stages of development. Some are actually live. And there are also going to be operational or analytical dashboards that cuts across functions, right? Because metrics, it's not just like supply chain metrics, merchandising metrics, or finance. A lot of it is across the board. So we need to make sure that we facilitate access to that information across the entire organization. So what are some examples of these dashboards? I'm going to go through in detail one of the tabs in our master dashboard. So this is the volume rate indicators landing page, which shows you performance from the prior week. We've got 8 weeks shown as default, but somebody can change that to 52 weeks. When we had our Excel reports, most of what we report is year over year, right? Standard metric, variance from prior year. What's the shortcoming of that? Oh, I heard it. Trends. So year over year growth is great, right? Because you see the performance from prior year. But almost always we forget that the number that we see is as much a function of what happened last year as a function of what happened this year. But we forget what happened last year, right? We're not so good at documenting all that. And so sometimes we react to seeing some of the numbers when it's red, but wait, it's because of what happened last year. So I firmly believe that looking at trends, in addition to the year over year, is one good way to put perspective. Because trends not only show you what happened in the past, but could give you an indication of what might happen in the future. So this is one change in the way that we thought about our business, having trends available in the dashboard. And obviously, leveraging the capability of Tableau, we've done a lot of drill throughs to get to not really just the what, right? These dashboards, reports, give you already answers to your what. But what's really important is the why. So it's the drivers of performance that we have decided we're going to be focusing on. So another example to support our supply chain partners, we've got distribution landing page, and this is what they've decided as what's important for them. This is actually a very slimmed down version of the set of metrics that they used to look at. Now, this is going to be a wild guess, but does anybody want to make a wild guess how many metrics they used to look at? They used to look at. They had a big Excel report, which they call the productivity dashboard. And wild guess. Higher than 100. We're at about 180. And when I first saw that, I was really surprised. And granted that all those metrics serve a purpose, right? Because metrics are there because it serves a purpose for different parts of the company or different parts of the organization. But I just find it hard to think that you have all of that in one Excel file. How can you consume that, right? How can you make decisions out of that? So we've started narrowing it down, okay? And we've moved away from that Excel report, finally, okay? And so this, gives them understanding of their certain, the operational metrics. And one thing that I mentioned earlier, it's co-locating metrics, right? Which ones are those that you think are related to one another and should be looked at next to one another to get the right context? And similarly, we've got drill-throughs available for this particular tab. So a big thing for us is obviously service level. We've got a lot of customers that we need to support, and we need to make sure that we're providing them with the right service. And we've built this specific tab to show various calculations of the service level. And what we've done is to take it further, not just drill through. I mentioned earlier that it's really understanding the drivers of, right? So service level can be impacted by multiple factors. So what we've done is we've worked with a replenishment team to identify what do you guys think are the factors that influence your service level. We took note of that, okay? So from there, okay, if you've got 6 factors, what impacts those 6 factors? So think about it really as a decision tree or a root cause, figuring out what truly is driving service level. So we've built a dashboard that's linked to this that takes them to an understanding of what could have influenced our service level for this window of time. And then just an example of the level 2 of drill through. So this for economic cases per man hour. So this one is a more detailed dashboard. The circles show the relative performance. We're big on relative performance, by the way. We're a selling organization, so it's always fun having our territory managers compete with one another. So if they see their metrics relative to the others, it's a competition. So we need to make sure that it's available for them. Correlations are also displayed, easier to see the patterns. Same thing as what I mentioned earlier, service level. You can see, what are the correlations. The tooltips provide information for them. And you can click on a link, and it can take you to another dashboard. So these are some of the dashboards or samples that we've provided. And I mentioned earlier, right, that we don't stop with a master dashboard. What we want to do is move away from spreadsheet. So you've heard that Excel file that had 180 columns. 2 weeks ago, I encountered one that went 246 columns, and it's all calculations. And again, I still can't believe that we have one like that. So that's on my #1 list when we get back that, yep, we need to address it, right? So from death by spreadsheet, leveraging the right tools, and Tableau is really our main BI platform, right? So we can have the right conversations and getting to the real answers. So having those dashboards enable us to get to the answers faster. And it's not just really the dashboards that are done, right? Because the power of Tableau and how we've been using it too in Insights and Analytics is that you're in a meeting, somebody asks a question, right there and then, drag, drop, show them the trends, here are your insights. It's a lot faster. So that's how we've leveraged it. And we also have a screenshot of our iPad view. Our president and CEO likes playing around with the data, so we need to make sure that it's easily available for him. And we're continuously building it out. We're never done, right? So what I described earlier, MMA, this is now a variation of this, supporting merchandising. We've got others supporting supply chain, understanding our storage situation, our perfect order index, so which is one of our key results. So really going down to the level of detail, understanding what influenced our perfect order index. And then on the logistics side. So logistics is actually one of our functions that had the highest adoption of Tableau. They're one of the first ones to build all their reporting. They didn't even go through the Excel part. They went straight to Tableau. So a lot of this is net new. And our partners, business partners, have really appreciated the fact that they can get to the information that in the past they didn't even know was available for them. So, what does this all mean? This ties into our US Foods cultural beliefs. This journey that we've been through in the past few years, I guess I can sum it up using our cultural beliefs. First is second to none. This is what we strive to be. Our turnaround time has improved on the average, I'm using on the average, 75%. Because we've got a lot of net new, things that did not exist before, and all of a sudden it's in their hands. How can you quantify the value of that, right? We no longer spend hours and days developing reports. It's there. Monday morning, they've got the master dashboard ready for them. So, second one is teaming up. BI Governance Center of Excellence is really a cross-functional approach. When I started this journey, I guess I didn't realize the number of people that I'd get to meet and the number of conversations I'm gonna have. But it's also a great experience understanding the business both horizontally and vertically. So it's not just in our head office, but even supporting our field. So we've got our partners across our 60 markets. We're starting to understand them because we're having the conversation using the platform. Next is talking straight. So we use the dashboard to have the right conversations because you see the numbers, right? Unless the data is wrong, which obviously, we've been instituting guardrails to ensure the accuracy. These are the results. So then it shows us that if we identify problems here and the numbers are supporting that, we need to address it, right? There's no denying. And last is walking the talk. Owning and having the accountability for all the information that we share across all of US Foods is really something that grew and really stood out when we were going through this journey. And I'm pretty sure this is going to continue all throughout. The ownership of the information as our functions continue to identify what are those metrics and dimensions that are important for them. And this all sums up to what we call the US Foods way. This is how we do things. The way we live, the way we work, and the way we lead. Okay? And a big part of that is having a common language, one source of truth. And where this also taking us is that dashboards that we've built to date shows us what happened in the past, right? And yes, it can give us an idea of what could happen in the future. But now that we've got also our forecasting capability, it's tying the two together. So we've started developing dashboards where here's what happened in the past. Oh, and by the way, here's what's going to happen in the future. So we've leveraged information from the weather company as part of our causal factor, which is great because now they've integrated also with Tableau. So if this is our performance in the past, and part of that is due to weather, what could happen in the near future? Also given the weather information. So now the picture is a little bit more complete, right? It's really not just history, but adding the predictive nature. And we've got our data science team, which is actually new to US Foods. And I'm really excited about the possibility of adding on more of the advanced analytics in our dashboards and not really just the what, right? Understanding really more of the drivers. So For anyone else in this journey, and I saw earlier there were quite a few hands that raised when I asked about the pain that we're experiencing in developing these reports, right? Some of what I can share is you need to have a champion. Reach out to individuals, leaders in your company that you can use as advocates, because they're really going to be able to pave the way for you. We've been quite fortunate enough that really the main advocate for us is our president and CEO. It was a clear mandate for him, and everybody else on his leadership team believed that this is the right thing to do. So try to find those individuals and reel them in, because it can go a long way. Second, my point earlier about business and IT partnership, really, really important. I don't think that we as a business could have come this far without their support in putting together the information for us, identifying data sources, identifying the right platforms to use, helping us put this together. It won't happen without their support. This is really, really very crucial. And last, I mentioned this earlier, right? Think about holistically. What are you trying to answer? What are the questions that you have? Start with your hypothesis. What's your alternative hypothesis? What are the methodologies or approach that you need? What's the data that you need? Why are you doing this, right? What's the information is just going to support, but why? What are the drivers? Why are you putting together this dashboard? I think that's going to help. And it's not just really, oh, I've got an Excel report, I'm going to read it in Tableau, or I'm going to develop it in Tableau. But work with your business partners. I say that work with your business partners. I'm considered business, but I guess I'm not really business, and I'm not really IT. I've used Switzerland as a reference before in meetings with business and IT. So my job is to facilitate that conversation and access to the information. So I refer to myself as, Switzerland. But then, depending on some of the conversations, I can be finance, I can be merchandising, I can be sales. So I guess suffice it to say, I've got multiple personality disorder. So if you're in that same journey, it can help. It's understanding your business partners, right? Part of it is, seeking first to understand what they're going through. It's really focusing on the people. So if there's something that I can share with you as you go back to your organizations, in addition to these main takeaways that I have, start really having the conversations. Think about the people, right? Understanding their pain points and where we can help out. Best thing for us is standing up this BI Governance Center of Excellence, because you need that structure. So our role is not to just tell them what to do, but it's to facilitate the conversation and enable access to the information that they need when they need it. It's not going to be easy, but we have this phrase that we use in running. So I'm an avid runner. It's relentless forward progress, right? You keep on keeping on. You have to start somewhere. Make sure that you've got a minimum viable product that you can show your customers, and keep on evolving, because it never ends. And that's when they're going to start seeing the value, and they'll realize that, oh, this is really great. It's easier for me now to make my decisions faster. Okay? So that's all I have for today. Please complete the survey. I've been asked to put that slide. And thank you so much for spending time with me on Thursday afternoon, end of day. Thank you. So I've got my contact information. They asked me to put Twitter handle. I don't tweet. I don't know how to tweet. So I'm going to put it out there. I've got my email address. So if you've got any questions, yes, sir?
Out there around the organization, even if it's not on server, but maybe they
So question for those on the other side, how do we prevent other people from downloading certified workbooks and making it their own? Right? That is really hard. It happens for us where we've got certified dashboards. If somebody's got a developer license, they can download and make the change. So the thing though is we've been very clear that they can do that, but it's not going to be official. So one thing that we've been very clear about is that if it's not a certified dashboard and somebody's going to be using that information, that's already suspect. Okay, so we've already communicated it that way. Yes.
We have separate environments. So in production, it's sandbox. Everybody plays sandbox, and it doesn't get to production until it goes through a specific group that only has access to publishing that folder.
Yeah, so we have the same folder, but if someone can download the workbook, they can go with a little screenshot or a little snippet or something like that of the certification picture. They can put it on their dashboard if they're a developer, PDF something, and hand it off to their boss. The next thing you know, it starts to climb to the leadership.
Boy. Yeah. Yeah. You know what that reminded me of is what Adam Grant mentioned this morning. That's a selfish taker. So, any other questions? Yes, sir. So question is if we encountered resistance. Oh yes, absolutely. Up until now, that's part of change management, right? The hardest part is we've got legacy. We've got a lot of reports that existed for the longest time, used by maybe a handful of people across the organization, and they're used to it already. That's a continuous challenge that we've been facing. So what we do though is show them what's in it for them, that it's easier, and why do they need to develop that when there's already a dashboard, that it simplifies things for them. But also one thing that worked is have a conversation with their leaders, because that's always an easiest route. And I guess it doesn't matter where you are in the organization, right? Sometimes the way to influence is not working with a person themselves, but working with the individuals surrounding them. And if you get an advocate in that group, then it's easier to take them. So actually that's what we've been doing with our finance partners, because there's a lot of, I'm not gonna say that it's really resistance, but maybe hesitation on trying something new. And until they've demonstrated, or until we've demonstrated for them that it's easy and it's gonna help them, it's really hard. So we've tried to work with, other people in their group that have already experienced it. Yes, sir?
Tell us about the decision to choose your one source of truth, technology, structure, and how challenging it was to bring all these various sources.
Okay, so primarily it was an IT decision that we're going to move to a cloud-first environment. They've evaluated a few different options, and we ended up with Snowflake. And it allows us to bring information from structured and unstructured data, bring it all in, and it was an easier connection to Tableau. So for us, when IT made that recommendation and we started leveraging Snowflake, we've decided that that's going to be our source of truth. So it can handle a whole lot of information, obviously some with cost, right? But at least it's all there. Now, in terms of the migrating of the information from various data sources, not all of our partners allow a direct connection to Snowflake. So what we've done is, again, with our IT partners, make sure that we have an automated ETL process, just to make sure that every Sunday we get this feed. So we're in that process right now. Actually, 2018 is focused on supply chain data sources. And then next year, that's when we're going to be touching the other functions. So it's going to be a journey, and it's not also as straightforward as, here's a data source, and we'll figure out how to connect that. But it's going through what is all that information that's in that data source that we really need, right? Because some of our partners also like, no, we're not going to give you everything. Right? So you need to make sure. So there's a lot of conversations with our business partners and with IT to facilitate bringing that all in. But we've made a decision as a company that Snowflake is going to be our main source and that Tableau is going to be our main BI platform. Yes, sir?
Obviously focusing on dashboards and graphical information, but not everybody's a high-level executive manager. What if you did in the lower-level reporting details, the guys that want to see tables and not specific numbers?
Yeah. So thank you for that question because there's a place for everyone. So what I described today, you are correct. This is really mostly executive level to certain levels of our leadership. But we have what we call operational analytical dashboards that come in the form of tabular format that they're familiar with, and it's not that different from how they view their Excel reports now. And that's one thing that we've communicated to our teams as they're supporting different functions, right? Think about your end user and how they're going to be leveraging the information. If what they need and what they're used to is easy tabular information, and you can layer on basic conditional formatting, color coding, exception management is what we're big at. That's really going to work for them because not everybody will be, I guess, inclined to just view charts and be able to capture that, oh, this is what I mean by that. A lot of them focus on the numbers still. We've accounted for that too. So it's just not in the dashboards that I've showed today. Still in Tableau environment, because again, the key thing is that it pulls from the same source. Yes, ma'am.
How much content did you create? Like, you showed a master dashboard that had 9 mini visions. Did those each link to a different dashboard in the same workbook? Were they linking to separate workbooks that all have tons of different tabs? Like, how much content is there?
So, really good question.
And the second part is,
Yeah.
how much did you get rid of?
Oh, that's another good question. So I'm going to quantify first how much we got rid of in terms of hours. Okay, so just one of the tabs that we have, the volume rate indicator page. So that's just one tab that replaced maybe about 6 hours of work on a Monday. Okay, and it replaced a big Excel file with, I believe, eight tabs of a whole lot of information. The distribution indicators, that pretty much replaced the 180 columns that I referred to earlier. So they no longer use that. And then the replenishment, I'm not exactly sure right now because that has also evolved. I think maybe 4 hours of work in one report that it replaced. In terms of the build out, okay, so each of the metrics that we have, you can click on, and if you want to understand further, it can take you to a second level of drill through, which is a link to our master dashboard. So it's a different workbook, okay? But there are others that if you click on it, so like service level, for example, it takes you to a totally separate dashboard that only speaks to service level. Because the way that we've designed it is that for leadership, here's what you see, and you can go down to the lowest level of detail if you want. But for the rest of the organization, you start at that service level, so that dashboard is available for them, but not the master dashboard. So we've pretty much compartmentalized the information and the level of detail. So. Yes, sir. Oh, really good question. So, question is on performance. We have a problem with performance. So, no shame in admitting that, because I think we all go through the same journey, right? There are some dashboards that, click, here you go, right? In a few seconds, you get the information. But, our business has changed over time where the demand really needs to get down to the lowest level of granularity. So let's say customer product day. And it takes a lot of time to get there. And when I say a lot, we're pushing close to a minute, right? And we know executives won't have the patience to wait that long. And funny story, because I was in a meeting with our CMO maybe a month ago, and we were showing him one of the dashboards. And obviously he had a question, and my team member clicked on a filter, and then he saw the circle, and then he looks at me and says, Heidi, do you love Tableau? I said, yes, I do. I don't. So what do you say to that? So we have those performance concerns. We've got our IT partners working on it, and it's a combination of things, right? It's the way that we've designed our dashboards. How do we optimize the codes behind the scenes? How we put together the information? And also in my mind, like the architecture behind it. Do we have enough cores? I'm pretty sure my IT partner won't like that when I ask for more cores. But it's something that we need to investigate, right? Because at the end of the day, if the information is not available when our users need it, then they're not going to buy into the whole thing. So we're going through that right now, unfortunately or fortunately. So part of the journey.